Hello guys, this is Ark and welcome back to my Worlds 2023 Round 2 recap, where we had a super exciting day with a lot of regional games happening and of course some multi-regional games as well, of course. The day was quite exciting, some super fun games. Generally, the games were kind of as I expected, especially for the teams that I actually watched during the year. So let's just dive right on top of it. So the first match was Energy versus Team Liquid in the 0 and 1 bracket. Um, Energy won the game despite me thinking that TL would carry the momentum from yesterday and actually take the win. Um, but TL's mid laner kind of like crumbled. He went like 0-7 at some point, and like if you can see here, he's like 0-6 here. He was go 0-7 afterwards, and Palafox got some solo kills and um, kind of like felt like a solo game where one team gets a lead, or like one player specifically gets a lead. In this case, Palafox got a solo kill over APA, and you know Energy built on top of it, and they never stopped. So quite comfortable win for Energy. Probably the expectations for most people who actually watch those teams. Unfortunately, I did not watch them the entire year, so I thought TL, with Piasik, for example, former world champion, they will take it, but apparently not. Which brings us to the second game, C9 versus LNG. So most people would think that LNG would very, very easily take this game, but Cloud9 actually put up quite a fight. There was some pauses as well in this game. But yeah, C9 put up quite a fight. They did have actually quite good control of the game, like 2.5 K gold lead in 24 minutes. Also, there was a big pause around 30 minutes, I think, during the game. Some issues. But yeah, it was like heroics by Zika's, Jax, and Tarzan to turn the game around. Scout as well had an immaculate performance. Honestly, if C9 was a bit more experienced and a bit stronger as a team, like not of the Asian caliber, but you could see they made a couple mistakes, like over pushing at certain points, which made them overextend. And for example, in this team fight here, they overextended, which they did not have to, and they got caught by Tarzan's and Zika's flanks, which ended up with LNG win the game. Not shortly afterwards, like it was still a close game, but after LNG got Inferno Soul, then Cloud9 crumbled and LNG got the expected victory. But what was not expected it was the way that they actually won. Regardless, this was a game in the 1-0 bracket. LNG won, which brings them to 2-0 now. And moving on to game 3, which was another regional matchup between Mad Lions and Team BDS. Again, I didn't really watch those teams in the regular seasons of their regions, and I thought BDS would carry the momentum again from playing stage and all that. Whereas Mad Lions lost to C9, I thought Mad Lions psyche would be crumble. Apparently not. Mad Lions had um, a strong showing overall. Um, they were in full control of the entirety of the game. Elioya had a strong early game jungling path, um, which made Seo quite useless in the jungle, set him behind so much. And um, slow and steady, Mad Lions got the victory, Hextech and all that. And yeah, not really much else to say here. Um, and then we had the other Fnatic versus Gammas, another 0-1 game. Um, I think everybody predicted Fnatic to win this. I don't think there was any doubt. Um, it was mostly a difference in skill in, Fnatic, like the EU slash LEC region and the wildcard regions, of course. And the GAM did well in the early game, kind of, going into the middle game quite even. But after some points and some team fights in the river for dragons, etc., um, Fnatic actually managed to win quite comfortably and quite quickly, actually. Um, was it like 30, 23 minutes or so, 24 minutes? Um, we can see here that, yeah, it was actually like 24 minutes on the dot. Um, it's funny because, for the first 16 minutes of the game, it was quite even, but, it's this higher tier of competition, more experienced in such situations, how to take advantage, how to snowball, and Fnatic ended up winning. Um, which brings us to the first big game of the day, of course, the Gen G versus T1, which has been pretty much, if you would have to label um, 2023 from a League of Legends standpoint, or even 2022, you would say that, you know what, it's Gen G versus T1. Um, these teams always seem to meet up at some point during the year. Uh, all the finals in the LCK has been between Gen G and T1, both in 2023 and 2022, of course. They also met in the MSI. They didn't meet in Worlds yet, at least not in 2022, but they meet up this year. Surely they have played in other World Championships before, like 2017, etc. But this was another meeting of them this year in a best of one format, which is, I think, it's probably like the first time they've played against each other in a best of one, because the LCK doesn't have best of threes, etc. So, I mean, it doesn't have best of ones, don't have like best of threes and best of fives. So, um, it was an interesting clash, and I think um, Genji's skill level at the moment, and power level and strength and whatever you want to say, is much higher than T1's, despite T1 being quite a strong team themselves. Regarding the LCK, like I've seen every LCK game this year and past year, of course, and Genji is by far the best team in the LCK for a very long time now. Um, Even though some of their regular season runs might not have been the best because they're still experimenting, they're still like building a new roster with like Ruler and Chovy and Lehans last year, or Pace and Delight this year. Um, their understanding of the game especially is insane. Like, their players individually are some of the best in the world. Like, Chovy is the best mid laner, Peanut is an insane jungler, Delight is an insane support. But what they do well is that they take great macro decisions in the mid and late game, and this is why they are the best LCK team, because they have very strong players and a very good game plan, and they can adapt on the fly. So that's why I thought Genji will win this game on over T1. Again, of course, I don't think it was any surprise. Um, of course, best of ones are always volatile, and you could see that T1 maybe could take a game away from Genji in a best of one format. And in all honesty, when the game started, Genji kind of blundered with a bit of overextended by Peanut in the jungle, in the river actually, and gave over one kill over to Fakers, Oriana, who did very well this game. I gotta say, Fakers, this was one of the only games I can remember this year specifically that he actually did very, very well in the game, and unfortunately was not supported by his teammates. Um, but yeah, a couple blunders by Peanut. Owner solo killed Peanut in his red buff at minute 6. So T1 had a 2000 gold lead during the early to mid game, but it's this difference of skill level as in a team-wide aspect that Genji just knows what to do in a macro sense. Of course, Chovy not dying here, for example, in this dive showcases how good of a player he is, and yeah, Genji won because of their um, macro advantage, so to speak, right? Expected. And then we go on to G2 versus Weibo, which was an insane game. Um, where is it? Um, So yeah, here we go with G2 versus Weibo Gaming. Um, it was a super close matchup. Um, at least that's what would you think, right? Like, we are 20 minutes here, and the gold is basically even slight favor to G2, but Weibo has three dragons, right? And they're moving on to the Mountain Soul. Um, what ends up happening in this game is that Weibo actually gets a big advantage. Um, it was here that they took Weibo got the Baron here, and they managed to like snowball this game, and they they reached a very comfortable state where they were able to push lanes. They even got like a 6 to 7k gold lead at some point. They ended up getting the Mountain Soul as well, which was big. Like right here, they are in like 7k gold lead with Mountain Soul, and you would think that, you know what, there is no way that Weibo is ever gonna lose this game, right? And somehow they ended up losing the game because the game went to the Elder Dragon somehow, um, which wait, I can't recall who got this one. I think, yeah, G2 got this one. Um, and then G2 could not close out the game. There was some fiesta in the enemy base, um, right here, or a bit after that. Yeah, there was some fiesta here in the Weibu's base, um, where I think GT could have pushed a bit harder with Elder Dragon buff to win the game. Unfortunately, they did not right there and then, so the game kept on going. This made Weibo have a chance to take the game back. They almost did. They got the Baron buff, I believe, or not? Did they not? They had a chance to take the Baron here, but they did not. They decided against it. Or no, they did. Yeah, they did. Um, so, Weibo now has like Mountain Soul and Baron buff. The gold is pretty much even, and as you can see, like 2k gold gap for Weibo, which doesn't really mean anything here. And with a team fight around the blue buff, Elder Dragon was coming up as well. G2 ended up winning this team fight and ended up winning the game afterwards. Very chaotic game, very back and forth, very 50-50, so to speak, right? Um, you could make an argument that either of the team was favored to win. To me, it was a 50-50. G2 won the game. G2 proves that they are the only European team that actually has a chance of doing something in this World Championship, kind of like as I expected for them to do. Um, and what I'm gonna say again is that G2, Weibo, and Damwon Kia are the three teams that are fighting for the seventh and eighth slot, in my opinion, to advance to the knockout stage. Now, G2 has beaten both Damwon and Weibo Gaming, right? So this gives G2 a massive advantage to actually lock their spot um, to the knockout stage by winning one best of three out of the possible three that are coming up. G2 will lock themselves into knockout stage, which is big. Um, so for EU fans, G2 fans, it's a massive win, and I don't want to say they're pretty much locked because of their strength, but you can play a maximum of three best of threes, and you need to win one of them. I think G2 can actually do it. Moving on to JDG versus BLG, another huge matchup, another regional juggernaut matchup. The thing about this game is that JDG has had the number of BLG the entirety of the year. I think it was like 7-0 in series matchups. So this was no different. It seems that every time BLG goes up against JDG, uh, they feel the pressure, they feel the pressure and they cannot do anything about it. The game was pretty much a complete stomp, even though it's not really reflected in the gold gap, but the game was a complete stomp. JDG had the number of BLG throughout the entirety of the game, um, and they just won as expected. Like, it's unfortunate for Chinese fans that their number two seed just get destroyed by JDG over and over again, and you would think that there would be some sort of more of a fight, especially Worlds is coming up, or we exist in Worlds. It's a best of one game, so you might think that, oh, maybe BLG can steal this, but nope, that didn't happen. JDG moved on to the 2-0 bracket, um, while BLG now is now in the 1-1, and obviously a fearsome opponent. And the last game of the day was, of course, another regional matchup between KT and Damwon Kia. Um, I think I initially predicted Damwon to win this because I always thought Damwon always levels up during Worlds. The thing about this game is that it actually was quite close, but KT always had the upper hand. Damwon was always in touching distance, but KT showed why they were the third seed from the LCK and why Damwon was a fourth. KT has always been better than Damwon the entirety of the year, and this showed right here. This showed with Lehens being a monster, BDD being great, Damwon having some synergy issues with like Kana and Kellin specifically. Um, I really thought that maybe Damwon would solve their issues before Worlds. They did put up a good fight with G2. They did put up a good fight against KT. Of course, KT also played against LNG in the first round. So those two teams specifically have been tested so hard so far. Um, like you see some teams, for example, you see Gen.G going up against Gigabyte Marines in the first game and against T1. I mean, T1 is not an easy team, but Gen.G kind of had like an easier road. Like considering that Gen.G has the number of T1 in do or die matches, so to speak, I'd say that their path is quite an easy one. Or for example, I don't know, like LNG has had an easy path, for example, right? They played Fnatic and then they played C9. Quite like the easiest road to a 2-0 record. Um, if you see like KT though, they had to play against BLG, and now they had to play against Damwon Kia, which is a hard road to go. And you know, KT is now 1-1, right? At the same time, Damwon had to play G2 and had to play KT, some of the strongest teams in the tournament, which is unfortunate, right? And what I'm trying to say is that some teams, and this is the nature of the Swiss stage, is that some teams are getting the easier path because of the lack of the draw. Some teams are getting the hard one. Um, in the end, if you want 3 wins and if you want to advance to the knockout stage and if you want to win the whole thing, you have to prove that you are the best team. You have to play pretty much against all of the best teams. So it doesn't matter if you face them here or round two or quarterfinals or whatever. You will have to beat them eventually. So yeah, but still, the it remains that some paths are easier than others. And now moving on to the draw for round three. So round three will be taking place over 3 different days: Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Um, so on Saturday we will play the best of threes of the 2-0 bracket. So on Saturday we will be having the first two teams that will be advancing to the knockout stage. Um, so this is already big. On Monday, we will have the elimination best of threes, where we see our first two teams being eliminated from the Swiss stage. And on Sunday, we will have 4 matches of teams with 1-1 record. Super important to win either of those games, of course, as you can understand. Even the best of ones in the 1-1 bracket are super important because if you win, then you have a chance to advance to the next best of three you will play, and so on. And so yeah, that was pretty big. And now let's reveal um, the draw. So in the 2-0 bracket was the first was when the draw first took place. It included G2, Gen.G, JDG, and LNG. Uh, Obviously, super strong teams. Pretty much the teams that you would basically expect to be there. Maybe not G2, But again, strength of the draw and all that, you might expect, BLG to be there. But of course, it was JDG versus BLG, so one of them had to drop out. Um, so yeah, it was pretty much what you expected. And the draw brought us the Gen G versus G2 match and the JDG versus LNG match. So we have some huge matches. Like any match here would be massive, but specifically the JDG versus LNG, LPL's summer finals rematch in a best of three here. It would be massive for deciding which team advances directly to quarterfinals, and which team will go to 2-1, and we'll have to play at least another best of three. Gen G, I think, got the lack of the draw here, drawing G2. Like out of the four teams, I think G2 is like the weakest of the four, which is not a knock on G2, of course. G2 is still like on the 2-0 bracket, right? And having to play against Damwon and Weibo to get there. So um, Gen G got the luck of the draw here, avoiding both LNG and JDG. Even though I believe that Gen G can actually beat both of those teams, I think Gen G and JDG are the two strongest teams, and no matter what, I'd say that Gen G had a very strong chance of beating them both anyway. But they got G2, the weakest of the four, so that's good luck on their part. And then, of course, yeah, we get the LPL Summer Playoffs rematch. Uh, Huge, insane, huge matches. And I cannot wait to see both of them. Of course, the games will begin 2 hours later than the regular schedule of round one, round two. And then we also got the losers, the 0 and 2 elimination best of threes, which the bracket includes D plus, includes Gigabyte Marines, includes BDS, and includes Team Liquid, right? Yeah, TL, BDS, GAM, and D plus. And from what you can see, it was DK versus BDS. That's going to happen on Monday, and TL versus Gigabyte Marines. That's also going to happen on Monday. And of course, on the one and one bracket, super spicy teams existing in here, super spicy games happening. The draw brought us T1 versus C9, a game that seems to always take place at Worlds, right? Those two teams specifically match up against each other. Then we get an NA versus CU match in NRG versus Mad Lions. We get the BLG versus Fnatic, and the KT versus Weibo Gaming. And this is where I want to kind of like draw the line. KT has played now, or we play with the third match. We play BLG, so China's second will have played D plus, Korea's fourth, and now that will play Weibo, which is China's fourth. So KT pretty much like has the worst draw in the entire tournament so far, in my opinion, because they never got to play any wild cards or any Western teams who are supposed to be like the weaker teams of the tournament. Of course, they didn't play like Gen G or JDG yet or teams like those, but they played BLG, right? They played Damwon. Damwon is always a formidable opponent, and then now they play Weibo. Um, so it's always like a hard road for KT, right? Um, Maybe their next draw will be better. So let's begin from the bottom and work our way to the top with our predictions. So Damwon Kia versus BDS, I think the clear favorite here is Damwon Kia, of course. It's a best of three format as well, which Korean teams are more accustomed to. Um, I would say it's like an 80-20 for Damwon to win. But BDS is always kind of a wild card, and Adam versus Kana in the top lane. You never know that Adam um, might do some weird stuff, and Kana might int his ass off, and this might lead to BDS actually having a decent chance to actually take the entire game. But personally, I think Damwon will just show how much of a better team they are, and actually win the series with a 2-0. And moving on to TL versus GAM, I think it's kind of a similar dynamic. Despite TL being 0 and 2, they showed that They have a good understanding of the game in certain cases, especially against their mats, with their mats against T1, of course. And I think Gigabyte Marines, good story, good everything, but I do not think they have a chance against TL. I think both of those games will be a 2 and 0, and TL and DK will go to the 1 and 2 bracket, and they will play their next best of 3 afterwards to avoid elimination again. Now, moving on to Sunday's match. Those games will take place on Monday. Um, but the day before, Sunday, we'll get the best of ones with our 1 and 1 teams. And starting off with T1 versus C9. Um, I think T1, like on paper, you would say that, oh, you know what, T1's gonna take it, right? The thing is, T1 struggled against TL, which is supposed to be weaker than C9. T1 lost to Gen G quite convincingly despite their decent early game, and now they have to play against C9, which, I mean, T1 does not have like the strongest or the hardest schedule. Like they have to play 2 and 8 teams, which is supposed to be weak, right? But at the same time, they struggle against TL. They lost against Gen G, which is the hardest match, of course. And now they play C9. And before Worlds, I would say that, you know what, T1 is definitely going to take it. But after seeing them against TL and against Gen G, honestly, I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure. I think C9 actually has a decent chance of actually upset. Like if C9 wins, it will be an upset, that's for sure. But I think it's more like a 60-40 in favor of T1 than an 80-20, for example. I think C9 has a very, very good chance to win against T1, and this says a lot about both of the teams, right? Because C9 did beat Mad Lions in the first round and was kind of expected. They lost to LNG but had a good showing against them, and now they play against T1, and it shows a lot about the growth of the team, but the history that the team has as well during the World Championship, the organization, right? I think it will be a very close matchup, and I would not be surprised if C9 takes this one, actually, which would be quite a blow for T1 and its fans, to be honest. Um, because T1 fans expected to lose against Gen but they expected a comfortable victory against TL, and they expect a comfortable victory against C9. The losers of the 1-1 games here will actually have to play best of threes to avoid elimination. So it's huge that neither of the teams lose, but of course, four of them will win and four of them will lose. So you cannot avoid it, right? But yeah, T1 pretty much has to win this because then it's pressure on. Um, and imagine that if you lose here, let's say T1 loses this, right? Which would be an upset, and Damwon and TL win. And imagine if T1 goes up against Damwon in the losers best of three, right? Like one of those teams will be eliminated, which is insane to think about. Um, so yeah, it's very important that you win any game you can, especially as you get closer and closer towards the elimination games. Then you get ANRG versus Mad Lions. This is a weird one, man. Like Mad Lions, they lost to C9, which means they technically should lose to NRG as well, right? I'm still not sure about the strength of NRG. Uh, they are in the 1-1 group, but that's only because they lost to Weibo, but they beat TL, right? So it's not like they are the strongest team. I think the thing is that it's kind of the same similar path with Mad Lions, right? Because um, Mad Lions also lost against not a very strong team. They lost against C9, but their victory was against BDS. So both of those teams' victories were against the regional teams, same region teams that are weaker than them. So you cannot say that both of those teams are like better than the other or not. Um, so far, it seems like NA has the number of EU in regional matches like NA versus U matches, but honestly, I feel like this is a hard one. I cannot decide. Like I can say Energy will win, and Mad Lions might win, or the opposite. Um, I'm gonna go with Mad Lions though. I believe Mad Lions will win against C9, but they lost. But I believe they will win this time around. So um, now we have BLG versus Fnatic. I think this is an easy BLG vote. Um, like Fnatic can put up a fight, but BLG I think will take it in the end because the difference in skill is high. And then we have KT versus Weibo. Oh man, I feel bad for KT as I said before. Like it's a very hard draw. Um, I think KT will win this because I don't think Weibo is uh, good enough to beat teams like KT. I think there is a big in terms of like skill level of the teams. I think there is a big gap between not the gap, but they're like brackets. So the top bracket is Gen G and JDG, right? Maybe you can put LNG or BLG there, but I wouldn't. I would just say Gen G and JDG are currently on the top bracket. Then it's LNG, BLG, and maybe I would put T1 there, or maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, I would say just LNG and BLG in the second bracket. And in the third bracket, it's T1, it's G2, it's KT. Um, and on the fourth bracket, it's Weibo, Damwon, and yeah, those two teams actually. So I think there is a clear skill advantage for KT and macro advantage for them, but over Weibo. But I can see this game going either way. Um, I can see this game going either way. Of course, both of those teams had quite a hard road here. I mean, Weibo played Energy, which was not they stomped Energy, but it could have been harder. But then they had to play against G2, and they lost that, so that now they have to play KT. KT similarly had like a much harder road. BLG, Damwon, and now Weibo. Um, I think KT will take this, which means that like think about this. If T1 loses and if Weibo loses, for example, we can have an elimination best of three game with like T1, Weibo, and DK and TL existing in the same bracket. It's insane to think about. Of course, there will be two more teams here, like let's say Energy and Fnatic, right? So teams like T1 and DK can still get like favorable draws, but they're like a big chance that there will be a strong draw in a strong best of three match that will result in one elimination, and this is massive. Um, so yeah, it's unfortunate that DK had to be here. It's unfortunate that either KT or Weibo will be in an elimination match in round four. Um, Same for 41 and C9 for sure. And now for the winners 2 and 0 bracket, um, I think JDG has the number of LNG, of course. I think JDG, at least against Chinese teams, is untouchable. Um, of course, if any team can give them a run for the money, it's LNG. So I'm expecting JDG to win this 2-0. Um, but I will not be surprised if LNG takes a game off or even wins the entire series. Um, because it's worth anything can happen, right? And LNG has shown to be quite a decent team so far. So we will see where this goes. And the G2 versus Gen G, I think the smart money is on Gen G, of course. Um, no, I think Gen G at this moment looks untouchable. Same for JDG. Like JDG and Gen G at the moment look untouchable as teams. And I'd expect Gen G to take this 2-0. Um, it's bad to see to do G2 this way because I think G2 has very good chance against pretty much any team. And even if G2 loses here, I think G2 will win any of the other matches that would go up against with the winners of this bracket here. Um, but the thing about G2 is like you doubted them against DK, and then you doubted them against Weibo, and they proved you wrong, right? But the thing is, like this is a good reason to hope that G2 can beat Zenji. But the thing is, it was a complete 50-50 against DK. They almost lost a lot against Weibo, and Weibo had Elza or had Mountain Soul, I should say, and a 5k gold lead. Was it 7k at some point? Yeah, I think it was 7k gold lead before the Elder Dragon, and they somehow managed to lose, which means that okay, G2 has a lot of metal in their mentality. They're a strong team, of course. They never give up. But I cannot see a world where Gen G can be like 7k gold up with Mountain Soul and ever losing against G2 or any team in the world actually. So I think Gen G will win this game, this series, and we will have our first two teams making the knockout stage, the quarterfinals, JDG and Gen G. Um, no matter what, again, every game is super important. Every game is super exciting here. I cannot wait to watch all of them. Um, again, the 2-0 matches will take place on Saturday. The 1-1 matches will take place on Sunday, and the 0-2 will take place on Monday. Um, Saturday and Sunday will be two best of threes. Sunday will be four best of ones. Start time will be 2 hours later than what it was in round one, round two. So um, I hope we get some good matches here, and I hope for the excitement to keep coming. So thanks for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing to this channel if you enjoy this content, and I'll catch you next time.